Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is a quick preview and prediction for Fabio Wardley versus Nathan Gorman. This fight goes down on the 26th of November and it is for the vacant British heavyweight title. And yeah, it's also on the undercard of Dillian Whyte versus Jermaine Franklin. Now, my plan is time dependent because right now, man, time is finite. 24 hours in a day doesn't seem to be enough, but yeah, in the next few days or so, I do plan on trying to get as many prediction videos done as possible because there are fights coming up that I am really looking forward to, and this is one of them, to be honest. Fabio Wardley versus Nathan Gorman. I think this one's a really interesting fight. I think it makes sense for both guys considering where they're at in their careers. And yeah, I think it's a good stylistic matchup also. And yeah, certainly an intriguing matchup on paper at least. So anyway, let's briefly break down the tale of the tape. I guess we shall start with Fabio Wardley. Fabio Wardley is listed as 6'5" with a 78-inch reach, whereas Nathan Gorman is listed as 6'4.5" with a 73-inch reach. So, according to the tale of the tape, Fabio Wardley has half an inch in height advantage and a considerable 5-inch reach advantage. Now I have to say, to me at least, Nathan Gorman doesn't really look 6'4.5". I would say closer to 6'3". To be honest, I think his height has been slightly exaggerated, quite frankly. Now, Fabio Wardley has a record of 14-0, 13 of his 14 wins coming by way of knockout, whereas Nathan Gorman has a record of 19 wins, 1 defeat, 13 of his 19 wins coming by way of knockout. So Gorman is more experienced, and overall he has fought a higher level of competition. You know, he's been in there with durable journeymen like Razvan Kajanu and Kevin Johnson, and of course he also fought Daniel Dubois, where he was blown away. He's even got a win over Sean Turner, who is quite durable himself. So I would say Nathan Gorman's got more experience, he's had more fights, and honestly, he's fought better competition. Both of these guys are orthodox fighters, and also both guys are in and around their athletic primes. Nathan Gorman is 26 years old, whereas Fabio Wardley is 27 years old. So yeah, looking at the tale of the tape, an intriguing matchup. But anyway, let's talk about what I believe each guy should do to stand the best chance of winning, and at the end of the video I will make my official prediction. Let's start with Fabio Wardley. Now, I would argue that Fabio Wardley technically isn't quite as good as Nathan Gorman. I think Nathan Gorman has better all-round fundamentals. However, Fabio Wardley is taller and longer, as well as he is more athletically gifted. He certainly has quicker feet than Nathan Gorman. I would say hand speed is hard to measure, but hand speed I would say is comparable between these two. But Fabio Wardley is also taller and longer. He seems to have better reflexes, better upper body movement, things of that nature. If I'm training Fabio Wardley in this fight, I would advise him to fight in a style in which tries to essentially draw Nathan Gorman forwards, you know, make Nathan Gorman be the aggressor. Namely because Nathan Gorman, in my opinion, number one, he's got slow feet. He can't really close the distance that quickly. And I don't think Nathan Gorman is particularly good at leading with his offense. He's okay when he's got a stationary target in front of him. You look at a guy like Sean Turner, for example. Nathan Gorman lit him up. When you're a stationary target, Gorman can rattle off combinations and look pretty good doing it, to be honest. He puts his shots together well when he's fighting a stationary guy. However, when you give him a bit of movement, when you can keep him at arm's length for significant periods of time. I don't think Nathan Gorman is all that effective. We even saw that when he fought Razvan Kajanu and Kevin Johnson. What he's shown me in those fights was that he couldn't really effectively negate distance, as well as creating his own openings, whether that be by drawing the lead, etc., then countering. He couldn't really effectively apply pressure when those guys were giving him movement and being defensive. And I think Fabio Wardley needs to incorporate that kind of game plan, but obviously with a lot more output. Fabio Wardley is the taller, longer man. He's got quicker feet. And early on in this fight, I think Fabio Wardley needs to be boxing off that back foot, keeping Nathan Gorman at arm's length, and essentially just trying to pile up the early rounds. I don't think Fabio Wardley should get too involved with Nathan Gorman early on. One thing about Fabio Wardley is he does take risks. Sometimes he'll swing his power shots, he'll throw himself off balance, and he'll stand in the pocket a little too long. He'll stand stationary, I should say, too long. He'll usually throw his big punches when he's at distance, but sometimes he'll throw himself off balance, he'll miss, and he's there to be hit. I don't think he can afford to do that quite as much in this fight. One thing Nathan Gorman is pretty good at is counterpunching, in particular with his left hook actually. He's almost like a really poor man's Andy Ruiz. If you fall short, he can explode with a left hook or a 2 or 3 punch combination. And yeah, if Fabio Wardley explodes from distance with a big power shot and misses, and he falls in, Nathan Gorman can catch him. So early on in this fight, I would suggest to Fabio Wardley to keep it long, keep that jab pumping, and stay on that back foot. Make Nathan Gorman chase the fight, because Nathan Gorman has extremely slow feet in my opinion, and his footwork in general isn't that great. He's a bit of a plodder, let's be honest. So early on in this fight, I say to Fabio Wardley, box off that back foot, keep this long, don't get involved, don't give Nathan Gorman a chance while he is fresh, while he is still fit. If he does that early on, I'm pretty convinced that he wins the early rounds. And essentially after that, I would advise Fabio Wardley to adjust your game plan as appropriate. And what I mean by that, we all know that Nathan Gorman has a reputation of not always turning up in the greatest of shape. We saw that in the Daniel Dubois fight, the biggest fight of his career, and again, in that fight, he turned up in terrible shape. So, if that is the case in this one, if I'm Fabio Wardley, I box early on, I'll try and tame Nathan Gorman, try and tire him out, don't give away too much myself, don't load up too much, and as this fight plays out, as Nathan Gorman's feet get that little bit slower, as he starts to lose encouragement, that is when I would say to Fabio, listen, get on that 1-2, follow through with that 1-2, really put some meat into it. And in the second half of his fight, then start to try and take some liberties with Nathan Gorman. Try to land that powerful 1-2, maybe finish it with a hook. And yeah, really try to start putting a beating on Nathan Gorman, because that's another thing. We saw Nathan Gorman get destroyed by Daniel Dubois. Fabio Wardley is going to want to at least take this guy out to make some sort of impression, right? So yeah, I think Fabio can win this by boxing all 12 rounds. But ultimately this is the heavyweight division, and as we know, knockouts sell, basically violence sells. So box the early rounds. I would say box the first 6 rounds. I'm pretty convinced that Nathan Gorman will tire in this fight. And in the second half, that is when I say to Fabio, start putting pressure on this guy. Start holding your feet that little bit more and letting go of that right hand. Trying to put some hurting on Nathan Gorman. And also change levels with the jab. Fabio Wardley, when he's boxing, I think Fabio would be wise to change levels with that jab, because one thing about Fabio, I don't like this about him, but at the same time it can lead to I think it can lead to some success in this fight. I don't like Fabio Wardley's hands down approach. I think when he meets a smarter boxer, he might get found out because of that. But because of the physical and athletical differences in this fight, I don't think Nathan Gorman is going to be the guy to do it, quite frankly. But one good thing about boxing with your hands down, when it comes to the jab, you can disguise it very well. So you can obviously jab to the head, jab to the body, mix and match it. And it makes it easier, for me at least, when I boxed. When I used to box with my lead hand down and my right hand to my chin. And I always found throwing a jab to the body far easier when I was throwing from the hip. And I would advise to Fabio Wardley, try and find that jab to the body of Nathan Gorman. Jab to the stomach, jab to the solar plexus, jab to the chest, just to try and gas this guy further going down the stretch. Again, as we know, Nathan Gorman doesn't have the best of stamina. And yeah, so simply for Fabio Wardley, box early, pure boxer in the first half of his fight, and in the second half, be more of a boxer puncher. Don't stand toe to toe and trade, but try and let go of some long, straight, hard punch combinations. Try and punish Nathan Gorman from arm's length, basically. As for Nathan Gorman, I do believe he can win this fight. But ultimately, I think it's going to come down to him drawing Fabio Wardley into a silly fight, And that could happen because Fabio Wardley started boxing late. I think he started boxing at 20, 21 years old, something like that. He doesn't even have any amateur experience. He's got 3 white-collar fights before his professional career. So Nathan Gorman in this fight needs to learn how to apply pressure quickly, and he needs to put some sort of hurting on Fabio Wardley early on. He needs to start landing leather early on in this fight to try and draw Fabio Wardley into that kind of fight, because without that, I can't really see Nathan Gorman's counter-punching working all that well, unless Fabio Wardley just makes a silly mistake where he falls in and Gorman catches him. I can't really see Nathan's counter-punching having all that much success. So in order to make that happen, Nathan early on in this fight, he needs to be a lot more aggressive than we are used to seeing. And ultimately, he needs to try to encourage Fabio Wardley into a shootout. If I'm training Nathan Gorman, I would have him approach this fight fighting in a high guard, almost similar to an Arthur Abraham type. Only jab when you know you're in distance, and I know it sounds risky, but I would try to encourage Fabio Wardley to try and penetrate my guard, to try and throw out the guard, to try and get him comfortable. But I wouldn't be throwing too many punches early on. I'd be trying to get Fabio Wardley to throw at my guard. I can read the punches, and I can sort of gauge where the distance is, because if you fight out of a high guard, not only is it a defense, but when you're catching punches, you can almost use it as like a radar, as almost a gauge of distance. And if Fabio Wardley falls in, that is when you pop the jab or throw that counter left hook to try and catch Fabio Wardley and catch him with something big and try and draw him into a bit of a firefight. Because again, that's the only real way I see Nathan Gorman winning this fight. I can't see Nathan Gorman winning this fight on points by outboxing Fabio Wardley. I don't think he's going to be active enough. The only way I see him winning this fight is by knockout, and that is going to be as a result of, drawing Fabio Wardley into a bit of a war and catching him, or Fabio just makes a silly mistake and he falls in to get countered. Apart from that, I can't really see Nathan Gorman winning this fight. So I think Nathan Gorman's start in this fight, how he starts, is going to be very important. I think he needs to try and land something big early on. And also, when he is in range, if there's any opportunities to try and land that hook to the body, take it. Fabio sometimes does have his back against the ropes, where he'll be leaning back and trying to roll with shots. I would be ignoring the head in those scenarios, and I would be trying to find that body of Fabio Wardley to try and slow those legs down, to try and slow that upper body movement down, that kind of thing. Gorman needs to apply strategic pressure. He needs to be cautious early on when Fabio Wardley is most powerful and most reactive. And yeah, needs to draw him into a fight. Needs to apply pressure, but he can't be gung-ho with it, He can't approach this fight in which he approached the Daniel Dubois fight. needs to be a lot more defensively responsible, and ultimately, in my opinion, he needs to catch Fabio Wardley. Again, I'll reiterate, I can't see him winning this fight on points. I think his only chance is by knockout. I don't think he can outbox Fabio Wardley for 12 rounds straight. Not necessarily because he's not as good technically, because I actually think Gorman has better fundamentals, but I don't think he's got the work rate. I don't think he's got the athleticism. And crucially, I don't think he's got the foot speed, quite frankly. So yeah, Gorman needs to win this fight by knockout. And yeah, I mean, interesting fight in my opinion. I could see this fight going either way. I think it's a competitive fight, but I would make Fabio Wardley a favourite in this fight. Maybe like a 70-30, something like that. But I think my official prediction for this fight will be Fabio Wardley on points. I think Nathan Gorman might be able to shell up and sustain the punishment. And even I could see a scenario where Fabio Wardley is just happy to coast this fight and box and win on points. I can see Fabio Wardley stopping him late. I certainly can't see an early stoppage, but I've got a feeling that this fight is going to go the distance and Fabio Wardley wins on points. I hope it's a good fight. I actually think this fight has the potential to be either or, like a really exciting domestic title fight, or one of those fights where Wardley just keeps Gorman at arm's length and he wins a dull points decision. I can see either or here, and I'm going to go with the latter, but it's going to have a few good moments here and there. I've got Fabio Wardley on points. What about you guys? Share your thoughts below. Peace.